Hello Centrals! Since I'm back in my public park where there are many kids around, I decided today, just on the spot, to do a video on how to talk to your kids about sex. Keep in mind that this is something that you're gonna have to work on for many years to come from now on, even if presently you do not have kids. Maybe you're just planning to have them. Step number 1, are you taking care of your sex life, and are you having a healthy, a beautiful, a constructive, a flowing sex life? Because you're in fact a model for your kids. Before you speak anything, before you hold any preaches or talks or conversations or give any explanations, the things that you're doing in your intimate life, the way that you're treating your partner, the way your partner's treating you, no matter if you're the biological parents or just the foster parents or just the people who are around your kids the most, you are the living example of a couple who's having, obviously, a sex life. So, what is the life that you're living? Because without knowing, your kid from early ages is going to pick up on everything that is going on, behaviors that he sees, even if you're a single parent. That is something that will be transmitted to your child much more strongly and much more powerfully than any conversation and any discussion that you will ever have. Now, remember, you can always start living the life that you want. You can always develop. You can always overcome any blockages that you may have. You can always fix things that aren't working. You can always improve yourself or develop yourself or expand your intelligence, your palette of experiences, and so on, if you put your mind to it and if you stick to whatever your sexual development may mean. And yes, the way you're going to go about this is going to have a massive impact on your child's life in the future. This is the best prevention ever. This is the best education ever. Number 2, when you see your kid, and I'm talking especially for younger parents here who have children from 4 to 5 to 6 years of age, and they see their kids touching themselves in their intimate area, in their genital organs, or even pleasuring themselves with various objects that they find in the house. This happens. Kids develop or tap into their natural instincts, because sexuality is something natural, from a very early age. And the first thing that you can do is do not freak out. Do not lash out at your child. Do not rush him. Do not stop him. Do not agitate him. Instead, go to him or her and ask what they're doing, what they're feeling, why they're doing what they're doing, but in a detached way, in a pleasurable way, in a relaxed way. Because if you treat this spontaneous and natural instinct of his with fury, with anger, with fear, with anything that may block him in the moment, you're in fact damaging your child for the longer run without even realizing. There's this saying that kids come intact, and in fact it's the parents that ruin them. I know it sounds harsh and it sounds judgmental, but consider this for a second. It is up to us as parents how these instincts are handled, how their natural behavior, their natural curiosity, their natural tendency to explore and to understand what they're feeling and how their body is. And so it's up to us to guide this and to have them developing this skill in a healthy manner or in a destructive manner, unfortunately. Now, I'm guessing that parents in our generation are going to be much more relaxed for the simple fact that we have a lot more information out there on sexuality. And in my case, and in probably many other adults nowadays' case, when we were kids and when we were developing into these instincts, we didn't have that much support, or we didn't have that much understanding or compassion from our parents when it comes to this part of our lives. And We certainly, at least some of us, may have had a lot of judgment, fear, punishment from our parents whenever they caught us doing whatever they caught us doing. Step number 3, answer the questions that they're asking. Kids will obviously, again, have a natural tendency to want to know more, to want to understand more about sexuality, and they'll come, guess to whom? To their parents, to ask what it is, to ask how do kids come in this world, how their body is like. Some kids ask their parents what their body parts look like. Kids are genuinely and innocently curious about the physical body, which is the first way they learn to connect with the world, the first way that they become aware of their body. And this is the best thing ever. If your kid comes to you and asks about these things, be relaxed, take it easy, prepare a speech in advance, like prepare before you even hear him asking, and start explaining about the human body. You don't have to have a medical conversation with him or teacher to student conversation, not at all. You're just being natural, and you're just explaining the way your body is, the way your body looks. Whether your kid is a boy or a girl, you explain that boys' bodies are different from girls' bodies, and so on. And there's nothing wrong with taking this relaxed stand and just answering only the questions that they ask. Please remember that even at a younger age, when they're curious, they aren't so aware of what the body is, and they aren't fully aware of what these things mean. It's just a curiosity. And what you're doing is setting the proper foundation for later on, when they become fully aware of this, to explore and to know themselves in a healthy way. So don't assume that whether they start asking you, they'll go out and do crazy stuff or whatever. Some kids do that, but they're exceptions, and you can certainly smell if your kid is one of those exceptions, or he's just, or she is just curious, which is, again, natural. And one thing about this step is do not answer questions that aren't asked. What I mean by this is don't volunteer any information that they do not ask, simply because you may give information that they are not ready to process. And that in fact may shock them, may scare them, may disgust them, and so on. And that is totally unnecessary. Remember that the questions that they're asking, it's the ones that they can handle for now. So don't go pushing boundaries that you shouldn't, in fact. Leave it up to them in their own rhythm, in their natural curiosity, in their own level of development, to ask you questions progressively in years, even if it's the case, and answer only what is asked. Number 4, start talking to your child, and this is where I mean the teenage years, when they start developing their body, when girls become aware that their breasts are growing, maybe their menstruation comes, maybe they start feeling their body is changing and you can also see it. You can slowly start talking to them about these things, for the simple fact that if you don't do it, they're gonna talk somewhere else. And there's a lot of crappy information out there, and the risks that they come onto bad shit, I'll just put it like that, is quite big. And why risk that? Why do that? I mean, you want your child to come to you first and foremost. Now, if you're a relaxed mother or father who's having healthy and beautiful, intimate life, it shouldn't be a problem. To the contrary, this is the best gift that you can give to your child, a proper foundation for them to develop from there on. And start tackling the body changes is the best thing that you can begin with. And now I'm talking about a serious conversation, not just answering various questions or being accepting of them exploring their own bodies. So I'm talking about more here. And again, the first thing that you want to begin with is with the body. They ought to have the proper foundation and understand anatomy. Keep in mind that this kind of information even adults could certainly use. Many adults aren't really aware of their body or of the opposite sex body. So this kind of foundation is always good. Now, what you can certainly do is search on the internet. There are many organizations or many parents who have already been through this with their kids, and they've set up resources for parents on how to talk to their kids about sexuality according to their age. And yes, the speech and the approach is always different with the child's age, and that's something worth taking into consideration. Number 5 is try out some books. Now, I have Googled a few and I will put some links to them if you may find them useful, or you can Google your own books and you can try to give them material that they can read. You can also look for documentaries or short presentation films. There are many NGOs who do them, especially for kids, and that's good, that's useful. Let's use what the internet has to offer in a very constructive way. Step number 6, I think it's 6, yeah. Make sure that you leave them somehow towards the adolescent years with this message. Sexuality is never a chore. It isn't something that you do out of duty, or it isn't something that you do just because everybody else does. This is something that you do for your own physical functioning, because it is, again, something natural. It's part of the human experience, and it is also something that we can enjoy. We are probably one of the few species that actually enjoy sexuality, and we don't just do it to breed. And sex, whom I consider to be a product of maturity, emotional stability, financial stability, health, it's bound to be good or great if everybody understands and if everybody approaches sexuality from this perspective. You're learning that this physical function with or through which we also bring life on earth is something that we can also unwind, we can also use to relax, we can also use to connect deeply with somebody, especially with somebody with whom we have mutual feelings. And it is sort of a gateway to love and then to spirituality. Now, I know that sounds way out there, but I will put a link to a book below, and this is very important, what I think, in terms of sexual development and in terms of giving your kids a direction for what their intimate life can be. I'm not saying that it should. I'm not saying that everybody is ready to hear this information, but just take this into consideration. The book is called Sex Matters: From Sex to Superconsciousness, and it's in fact a transcript of a speech that Osho gave back in the 80s or 90s. And this is extensively on sexuality, on the 3 levels of exploring this energy: the instinctual, the emotional, and then the spiritual. And again, I realize this may be out there, but then again, why not take a look at it and decide for yourself whether you think this is something worth mentioning to your children, or something worth taking into consideration for yourself, or just put it as an idiosyncrasy or eccentricity that some people afford to do. Then again, I'm sure that you know of the physical and then the emotional part of sexuality. We all do. So that's worth putting into words, and that's worth transmitting to your child, just to have an idea of where it can be, so that they don't get lost in the years that they'll be exploring and the people they'll be meeting who may not necessarily be in love with them, cheating on them, and so on. It happens a lot in the late teens and early 20s, and happens even later on in life. But then again, there's a wild period in your life where if you don't have references, and if you don't know what the highest form of sexuality can be, you can get lost, you can get bruised and hurt and disoriented pretty bad. Why not avoid that if possible? With the proper direction, with the proper foundation, and with the proper vision in the long run. So this is my take on how to talk to your kids about sexuality. If you're a parent out there and this video reaches you and you agree or disagree with the things that I said here, give me feedback. I would love to know from people who have already had this discussion. My view here is mainly from a child who was obviously not given the proper initiation. I wasn't given any initiation into this at all. And I'm, in fact, correcting these in my 30s. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear from somebody with the perspective of a parent and the challenges or the successes that you've had. Share them with me, with everybody else, if you think these things are useful and people ought to hear about them. Otherwise, I will see you in the next week's vlog, and I hope that you have a beautiful, fulfilling, intimate life, and I'll see you next week.